You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Moser. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday, the 14th of March. £4 million fines for nearly 2,000 illegals arrested in the North East. Cameron in meeting with Obama over UK withdrawal from Afghanistan. CS gas and water cannon to be used in future riot control. 22 children killed in Belgium. Dollars for Greece. 30 Syrian dead protesters dumped in a mosque. Mosque firebombed in Belgium. Thought for the day: the British National Party and the apathetic population. UK news. Immigration officers in the north east of Britain claim to have arrested 1,840 illegal workers in their area. The workers, most of which had been deported, were from all parts of the Far East and the Eastern Europe. The men who employed the illegal immigrants have been hit with fines reaching a staggering £4 million. One source said, "Let that be a lesson to all employers who use cheap illegal labour instead of British workers." David Cameron is reported to have met with the US President Barack Obama to discuss withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. Behind the flames that fanned this meeting were the deaths of 6 young British soldiers serving in Afghanistan last week. One source has said, "Saying to the public that troops will be returned home is one thing, but how long it will take is another." CS gas could be used against rioters, reports from police sources have said, during riots similar to the race riots last summer. The whole of Britain's police forces will be equipped with CS gas in future. Water cannon are another option which apparently will be open to police during riots. Well, that'll see the EDL and us off then. How about the black rioters and the Muslim protesters? Euronews. 22 Belgian children were killed in a coach crash in the region of Valais in Switzerland. The coach was travelling through a tunnel when it hit a wall, killing the 22 children and 6 adults. The cause of this terrible crash has yet not been verified. The people of Greece could be in for a surprise. One source from the EU has suggested that Greece ditched the euro for American dollars. This quote was not a jibe at Greece, but a true fact that the source of the comment actually meant it. Greece would be better off using dollars as its currency. The euro has currently risen past the dollar after Greece completed its bond swap. World news. Reports are claiming around 30 Syrians who may be involved in the uprising against the Syrian government have been killed and dumped in a mosque. The UN Arab League envoy Kofi Annan is trying to place a peace process between the sides. Syria's President al-Assad said he wanted an end to the bloodshed. Reports have also said that Syria is laying landmines along its borders with Lebanon and Turkey. US President Barack Obama has said he will be going all out to investigate the killing of the 16 Afghani civilians allegedly killed by a US Army sergeant. So far the man has not been named after he handed himself in. A Bangladeshi ferry boat that ran into trouble on one of its largest rivers has caused the death of 40 people so far. 8 more bodies have been discovered and some fear that still more people may be trapped inside. A large immigrant-based mosque in Belgium, which has sheltered illegal Muslim immigrants and possible al-Qaeda supporters, has been firebombed with a Molotov cocktail. The mosque that had been allowed to be built in the Belgian capital of Brussels by the left-wing multiculturalists was attacked by Belgian people. One had been arrested, but reports say more fled the scene. Another case of the dangers of the Marxist multicultural failure. One source said that this Christian-Muslim integration myth is a powder keg in Europe, just waiting to explode. People have had enough of it and the world can see that these two religions will never coexist together. Thought for the day: the British National Party and the apathetic population. I am worried. I am very worried for my country and my party and the way we interact or do not. The problem our party has is that although our support is growing, despite the media blackout and media slanging, the fashionable anti-fascist stance and the anti-racist stance from our minor celebs, we still have to reach a disenfranchised and mentally bereft youth, or say people from 20 to 35. These are the people who generally do not give a thought to their country or indeed their future. They are usually the product of state schooling, which consists usually of no schooling and little discipline, classes crowded in most areas with ethnics who do not or cannot speak English, British history is ignored, but they are taught about slavery, usually the wrong facts. Christianity is now no longer even mentioned in state schools, but the kids can certainly banter around the playground and know all about Eid. Young white boys are marginalised, and in some areas young white or black girls are groomed, but that is another subject. My point being, we have at least 2 generations, some of which consist of utterly useless articles, whom if this country actually had to try and defend itself would be no use at all. Why? Well, I think the reason is a very overt form of social engineering which is being perpetrated not only on the British people but around the Western world. But I am only concerned with my people and my party and what we can do about it. This engineering has taken the form for many years of under-educating our youngsters, under-disciplining them, filling their heads with football, celebs and booze, while celebrating that lifestyle and denigrating sexual prudence, hard work, education and the freedom of choice. The result of this was painfully apparent at a meeting that I attended down south last night. But I have met this problem before around 4 years ago in Kent, so it is not new, but it is growing and it is called apathy. We had a well-attended meeting in a room of a pub that welcomed us. On going into the public bar for a dram, I noticed around 20 youngish men all sitting around on their bums watching football. Another lot were playing pool. Now I know we are called neo-Nazis, but this would not have happened even in pre-Nazi Germany, let alone when they were gaining popularity. It could only happen in England. There we were, average age well above 45, trying our best to sort out our country, whilst there in the next room are 20-odd louts lying around in a semi-drunken state watching the box. Girding my loins, I asked the landlady if I could give out some voice of freedoms. She was quite happy, so a colleague and I handed them out. Later it was decided to go into the lion's den again and try to get one of these young men into our meeting to tell us exactly what they would want from a political party or what they needed from their country in the future. Well, you might have thought I was speaking Urdu. A couple declined because they were tipsy. Another one said he would only become very racist, and to cap it all, when I mentioned children and future, one guy told me that all he wanted for his son was an Xbox and the time to play it. We did succeed in getting out a very nice young man who worked there and, although not a member, had voted British National Party, and a biker gent who proved a charmer. Well, all is not lost then, but oh dear, what a struggle. And this is when the country is obviously going through hard times and will be going through more hard times. When will it hit them? We can do something about it, but we need help. I can guarantee if these men had not gone through the so-called free education system that we have now in place, they would be more able to think for themselves. Or is it that they have become too comfortable to really change? Rather like a dog sitting on a thorn, but too lazy to shift off it, but grumbling all the same. Our establishment, our multicultural diversity, human rights ridden establishment, have got what they want. A passive, uneducated, uninformed and gormless mass of beings, to whom several pints and a quiet life is all they require. Rather like a weed in a scrub patch, relying on drips of rain to survive. In fact, it seems that when some of these guys are not in a pub, an Englishman's home is their castle, becomes more sinister. As we are being discouraged more and more from socialising and meeting up, one's homes are becoming prisons. Places where the establishment know you are being thoroughly indoctrinated by the media. I did say to the main body of these males that in 10 years' time, when Sharia law or our government has wiped public houses off the face of Britain and delegalised booze, do not come to us. It will be too late. As the household name in nationalism, we need more activists, more members and more people to actually show their heads above the parapet. These people will have to be brave and undaunted. They will have to be loyal and they will have to have the courage of their convictions, as most of our existing members and activists do. We need to advertise meetings, albeit with our viewpoints only. We need to get out there into the grassroots of our people and tell them what is going on. We cannot and will not be silenced anymore. If the result of the dumbing down of the British is what I saw in this pub, it has gone on too long, and has cast its nets too wide for England to survive if the people do not change. After all, it is the people we are trying to save as well as the country. How much would you do to help? Will you listen to our World at 8? Will you tell your friends to join? Will you become more active yourself? In the words of Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I leave you all with this thought. It is never too late to be on the right side, my friends. Join me in the fight. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart, and I wish you all a very good night. That be a lesson to all employers who use cheap illegal labour instead of British workers. David Cameron is reported to have met with the US President Barack Obama to discuss withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. Behind the flames that fanned this meeting were the deaths of 6 young British soldiers serving in Afghanistan last week, 22 children killed in Belgium, dollars for Greece, 30 Syrian dead protesters dumped in a mosque firebombed in Belgium, thought for the day, the British National Party and the apathetic population. UK News. Immigration officers in the northeast of Britain claim to have arrested 1,840 illegal workers in their area. The workers, most of which had been deported, were from all parts of the Far East and Eastern Europe. The men who employed the illegal immigrants have been hit with fines reaching a staggering £4 million. One source said, "Let that." Highlights of the news today, Wednesday the 14th of March. £4 million fines for nearly 2,000 illegals arrested in the North East. Cameron in meeting with Obama over UK withdrawal from Afghanistan. CS gas and water cannon to be used in future riot control.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the #1 in nationalist news.